Assalamu alaikum. This is a quick response, follow-up response concerning the replies by Rashid Hamami and Robert Spencer in their recent YouTube debate. Now, there are two arguments concerning the law of apostasy in Islam and the false allegations concerning terrorism in Islam. Now, first concerning apostasy, the law against apostasy is in the canon law by the Roman Catholic canon law, and it's based on verses from the Bible, from the Old Testament, more precisely, which condemn apostates and calls to capital punishment against apostates in Christianity. So this even exists in the Christian tradition and in the Christian canon law that is based on the Bible itself. So why are they condemning it in Islam while it's still there in their teachings, in their book, in their Bible? This is number one. Number two, the thing behind this law in apostasy, the way I see it, and many scholars I think also pointed that out, is that embracing religion and leaving it should not be a game that is played by some people. One day they are Muslim, another day they are not. This should not be a game. So if there's something, or there are any doubts or anything that about Islam that they don't like or they don't approve, well, this should be prior to them embracing Islam. And there is no compulsion in embracing Islam. And this has been testified by many non-Muslim Western historians who approved of this fact, that there is no forced conversions. And the existence of Christians and Jews among Muslims in the Muslim countries is one of the biggest evidences for that. Patrick Bet David himself, the presenter who hosted this debate, is a Christian from Iran, and his ancestors have been there in the past 14 centuries under Islamic rule. Of course, we're not talking about the current regime in Iran. We're talking about the successive Muslim rulers in the past 14 centuries. And you can see a lot of Christian and Jewish families who have lived in the Muslim world, from Yemen to the Levant, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine, Egypt is the biggest example, and so on and so forth. So for long centuries under Muslim rule, they have been living. And the argument that some people put forth and say that, well, some have chosen to embrace Islam so they would not be paying the tax, the jizya tax. This is also a nonsensical argument that can be refuted easily by saying that Muslims pay zakat, and Muslims in most cases pay much more than non-Muslims, Jews and Christians, pay in jizya. So their tax is much lower than what Muslims pay as zakat, almsgiving. So this is not an escape from jizya, because if you escape from jizya to zakat, then you're a fool financially. You don't know how to count. You don't know how to calculate, your taxes and your money. So this is one thing. And again, I would like to reiterate this point. This law against apostasy is to prevent religion being manipulated by some people and being a game and being just entry and exit whenever they would choose to. And even before, they embrace Islam, if they have questions and doubts, they can ask. And we always tell people to take their time before embracing Islam, although we would like them to be Muslim as soon as possible. But they still have the right to explore and to ask and to ponder before accepting it. And another point is that Muslims do not go and kill anyone who leaves Islam. This is not vigilante justice done by Muslim individuals. This should be done at a court of law by the government itself. There should be a judge and there should be a just trial. And before applying this sentence, before executing the apostate, there would be a period of time in which They will bring scholars to respond to him, to try to persuade him, to try to convince him, to try to, if you want to say, clarify his doubts, to try to establish the evidence against his standpoint. And we Muslims believe that Islam is a rational religion that is based on rational arguments and not just based on a blind faith like some other religions. So this is concerning apostasy and their objections on apostasy. And you can make research. For example, I'm showing a page from Encyclopedia Britannica, which shows the law against apostasy and the standpoint against apostasy from the Catholic Church, as well, I think the Orthodox Church. Anyhow, you can make your own research about this. Now, the last point, or the second and last point, is concerning terrorism. They always try to misquote the Quran and make it seem as if Muslims are allowed to kill people randomly, people from other faiths. Whenever you may find them, go and kill them. This is misquoting the text and taking it out of its context. The context is very clear. You can read the Quran yourself, you can read these texts yourself, and you will find out that the context of these verses is against enemy combatants in the battlefield. Peaceful non-Muslims, especially Jews and Christians, are not even to be harmed. They are under the government's, the Muslim government's protection. They have the right to live freely, to worship freely, but those verses in particular is against those who have waged wars against Muslims. And the verse is very clear in Surah number 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 190. وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. And fight in the way of Allah those who fight you, but do not transgress, for surely Allah loves not transgressors. And also from Surah Al-Mumtahana, which is Surah number 60, verse number 8, which clearly shows that Muslims should not harm peaceful non-Muslims who live peacefully among them and who did not wage a war against them and who did not seek to harm them or to assist harm against them. So whatever point they are trying to make, they are trying to vilify Islam, they are trying to distort the image of Islam by talking trash and falsehood about Islam, does not stand here, because the Muslim texts and scriptures denounce terrorism, denounce any act of harm or violence against civilians, against innocent civilians. And it's only permissible to use violence against enemy combatants. And this is very clear in our teachings, in our scriptures. So they have no point. They were just trying to distort the image of Islam. They were trying just to spread lies. And I hope that I have clarified this in this video. Thank you so much for listening. I tried to make it as brief and concise as possible, but it turned out to be about 8.5 minutes. I'm really sorry for that, but I hope that you benefited from it. Assalamu alaikum.